Hollywood is losing and fading quickly, California needing to do something desperately to stem the tide of so many people going on a ride to other states where they will stay. Now, Ben Affleck says it's not about the actors leaving, it's somebody else, and it may not be reversible. We'll tell you why Gavin Newsom and the rest of the Golden State crew need to fix this very fast or face a future with very few Hollywood productions. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Pro Channel. Happy to have you. Happy to have you. Click the like button. Sit back, sit tight. We've got a conversation on the way with expertise like you will rarely see on YouTube. Let's dive into the story of Ben Affleck declaring, could be over for Hollywood. We were one of the first channels to really talk about because we were paying attention to the production numbers, right? And so we were talking about how much Hollywood was at the precipice of going extinct. You all can go look at the history of the videos and see that this is the case, that we were covering this. Ben Affleck is now addressing it, and he has a particularly interesting take on it that we just have to bring to you. Ben Affleck reveals why so many stars are fleeing Hollywood. Ben Affleck is opening up about the real problem with California and the film industry. This is out of Hola, and we'll see if we get an author. We do. It's Rebecca Jacobs out of Hola. Not the name I was expecting, but it's the name we'll go with. It says Ben Affleck is providing some insight into why so much of the film and television industry seems to have moved out of Los Angeles and the Golden State as a whole. For the most part, production has migrated from Los Angeles because other states and even other countries offer a better tax incentive for companies to film there. Affleck spoke about the change while speaking with the Associated Press on the red carpet of the premiere of The Accountant 2, suggesting that California might not have realized they had anything to lose. I think part of the problem with California is they came to take this industry for granted a little bit. Affleck told the outlet, mentioning that California Governor Gavin Newsom was increasing the cap on tax incentives to keep filming in state. Still, he doesn't think that alone will be enough to help all of the productions that have already left. And here's where we get in some interesting things. He says the percentage you get back in terms of actual budget doesn't compete with places like England, which is why you see a lot of these big, huge movies shoot in the UK. He added that great incentives from Georgia, New Mexico, Louisiana, Texas, Massachusetts, and New Jersey have driven production to those states in search of savings. Now, we won't watch the video right now. I just want to say that this quote here, this is the reason we're doing the story. So pay attention, folks. This is what matters. It says, it's really the technicians and the crew that make or break your movie. I want to say it again because this is so unusual to hear this coming from somebody such as Ben Affleck. But he gets it. And this is what we've been saying. And we're going to go to you in just a minute, Lou. I need your take on this.
Yeah.
But Affleck says it's really the technicians and the crew that make or break your movie. You need the best people. You need good people. I, as a director, know that to be true. And so if people move away, you know that really hurts the industry. All right. Here's my thesis, and Lou, I'll hand it to you. The thesis here is that we just covered that productions have now surpassed productions in California. Productions in Georgia and Atlanta have now surpassed productions in California. My thought on this is that the greatest, the best technicians, many of them have migrated now to Georgia. And as a result, it's making it into sort of it's a spiral, right? It's a positive feedback system going into Georgia, where that's becoming more and more attractive, and I don't see any way to accelerate that.
Well, there's a couple of factors at work here. First of all, you're seeing stories left and right about, oh, God, Hollywood, oh, Hollywood, oh, Hollywood. Why? Because there is a concentrated campaign going on in the industry to get the state to up the number on the tax incentives, okay? So that's why all of a sudden everybody's realizing, oh, my God, we've got a problem. Now, as far as moving to Georgia or anywhere else, here's the deal. All the contracts, whether you are a key grip or an electrician or a craft service person for that matter, all of the contracts have a factor that's been built into them for decades called distant location rates. And what it means is if they take you somewhere else to do the movie outside of your hometown of LA or whatever, they have to pay you a per diem for food and whatever. They have to pay for lodging, and they have to pay a higher rate and, in some cases, first-class transportation. But they don't like to do that, and I don't blame them. It's a lot of money. So what they will tell people and it's technically sort of illegal, but it happens all the time. They will say, listen, I would love to have you on my movie, but I can't afford distant location rates. But if you manage to establish a residence of some kind in Atlanta, either rent an apartment or have a cousin whose address you can use, and you just walk into my office once I establish it there as a local, where I don't have to pay you all those distant location fees, you got the job. Well, a lot of people have done that. A lot of people have done that because there's enough work to make it make sense. And of course, we're not just talking about the people who are actually on the set. We're talking about the people who rent the cranes and the dollies and the grip equipment and the scaffolding and every other thing that goes along with making a movie. So when you establish an infrastructure in another place, you got something going. Now, there's one other factor. Back in the days, way back when people, I remember, I think one of the first people to build a studio, granted very, very small, in Florida was Burt Reynolds in Jupiter, I think it was, Florida. And they shot a couple of shows down there. And people started asking, golly, what if they started doing the sitcoms and things down there? And people said, it'll never happen. They said, why? Because the executives, the writers, the bosses are always looking to what's my next gig. And they don't want to be out of the loop of personalities and parties and personal connections that way, to be for 4 months or 6 months of the year somewhere out of town. Well, you know what's changed that, of course, is the internet. What changed that is Skype and Zoom and all the other things that mean you don't physically have to be there, because nobody's physically there, even to the point of not coming into the office in LA. Back in the sitcom days when I was busy, a lot of grips, electricians, camera people would live out in Palmdale, Lancaster, Acton, and beyond. Why? Because houses were a hell of a lot cheaper, and because the atmosphere was better to raise their kids in. And what they do is during TV season, they'd rent a 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom apartment in Hollywood and come in early Monday morning and go home Friday night and spend the rest of the week during the season in town. So this is a larger version of that. And when you couple it to the fact that people are building stages like crazy in places even not so far away as Georgia, what about Las Vegas? Which is, you know, the neighborhood if you live in LA. I mean, when I last lived in LA, I could get from my house to the Strip in about 4.5 hours if I didn't do it at the wrong time of day. That's no big deal if you live in LA and you're used to commuting, as I used to, 2.5 hours each way just to go to the doctor, for goodness sakes. So all of these logistical factors have changed overnight, or seemingly overnight. And of course, all of it was accelerated by COVID, because of the changes in working at home versus working in an office, all the rest of it accelerated. What happens when all that office space downtown goes empty? What happens is the restaurants, the dry cleaners, everybody who lived off that office space dries up and dies too. So there's my overall survey of things economic in the last late great state of California.
Well, extremely well said. Let's now go to the assessment from Ben Affleck, and this is posted by Patrick Bet David of the PBD podcast, Valuetainment and all that. Here's what Ben Affleck had to say, folks. Listen in, and this will be the unfiltered now. You've seen it in text. You've heard me read it. Here's what he had to say. Pay attention to the attitude he has regarding this. Pay attention to his demeanor, to his tone, please.
Other places will have like better exchange rates or tax rebate deals that are meant to lure this industry there because they understand how stimulative it is for their economies. I think part of the problem with California is that they came to take this industry for granted a little bit. Now, I will say the current governor, I think, doubled the tax rebate amount in bulk available, but the percentage that you get back in terms of the actual budget doesn't compete with places like England, which is why you see a lot of these big, huge movies shoot in the UK, or even, you know, I mean, there've been New Mexico and Louisiana and Texas and Massachusetts and New Jersey, a lot, Georgia. Yeah, people give these tax rebates, and they've been sort of controversial. But one of the things that happens is that it does cause people where this used to be the center of that to move to other states for work. And it's really the technicians, the crew, that make or break your movie. And you need the best people. You need good people. As a director, I know that to be true.
So I just wanted to put it, it's always important to let somebody say it on their own rather than have it read to you. And Vash, Ron, your thoughts on this idea that there's an exodus and that the talent to make things happen right? The people who handle the logistics, they've gone to other places.
Yes, they've gone to many other places, especially, following the Palisades fire and stuff. If you don't have stakes in LA, it's like, well, maybe I can get up and move to somewhere else. Ben Affleck also included some other very interesting tidbits of information. He said this: people are going somewhere else because it's more cost effective. There's just a lot of prohibitive regulations and things in the way that I think could be lifted, but I think it can be fixed. Now, that's interesting, too, because that's not just talking about the economies at that point. That's talking about some regulatory hurdles that could also prohibit filming in LA. Obviously, they might they might strike you at the pocketbooks as well, but that's another interesting tidbit to include in this discussion. I think a lot of people are kind of waking up to this, and that's why they're calling for reform on this issue. Like Lou said, there's a lot of campaigning going on this particular issue right here. But it's interesting. I was just studying the polls for California the other day, and the trend towards maybe deregulation is profound.
Absolutely.
Well, there's one more factor. Let us say you get all the tax incentives that you get in Georgia or someplace else. And let us say you can make your movie, as far as the budget is concerned, for a comparable number. The money that you now pay to those grips and electricians and craft service and cinematographers, they still live in Los Angeles, where the taxes are higher than almost anywhere else, where the cost of everything is inflated than almost everywhere else.
Right.
When we moved to Tennessee from California, I decided to do a little test. And I said, there's got to be some items that I buy at the grocery store that are the same nationwide. Not meat, not produce, not stuff that's perishable. And I settled on a jar of a certain size of Skippy peanut butter. And I looked up the local supermarket ad in a town in near where I live now and compared it to LA. It was $1.57 cheaper.
Yep.
Now multiply that by the 30, 40, 50 items in your weekly shopping cart, and suddenly you're talking about an ongoing expense that all the tax breaks in the world are not going to overcome.
Yeah, that was behind the Lake Nona move in part because Disney was looking at their Imagineers. They were looking at people that they were they were part of their workforce in Glendale, California, and saying, well, wait a minute, the cost of living is it's so disproportionately different than we can actually get away with that. Maybe even paying our Imagineers less, in which you would think that they would have a lesser quality of life, but they might actually have a more greater quality of life, just considering those other factors associated with the cost of living. Go ahead, Ron.
Ron, you've been in all kinds of film productions. Give us your thoughts on this situation of California at least not being as influential as it has been for, a century of movie making.
Well, one of the things that I wanted to take into account is Ben Affleck is completely correct about the talent, not acting talent. Acting talent you can find anywhere. I mean, everybody in the world wants to act. It seems like everybody wants to be on camera. We live in a camera day and age. But as far as key grips and gaffers and all of the people backstage that do all this work, well, the fact of the matter is there are more and more people in the film industry that have dispersed from Hollywood because they can get so much work independently. Away from the studios and all of that, but you have Georgia as a big hub. Atlanta, I have a friend, colleague I used to do stand-up comedy with, and he moved to Georgia. I don't know how many years ago, maybe a decade ago, moved to Georgia, does a stand-up comedy out of there. And I can tell you, in the last few years, this guy has popped up in everything. Not huge parts, but very recognizable. I mean, he's in Stranger Things. He's in the new Ghostbusters movie. He's in the Lyle the crocodile. He's in all kinds of things, and he'd be very recognizable if you saw him. You know who he was. He's in actually the after credit scene of the Ghostbusters. The new
You
Ghostbusters
keep going.
movie.
You're going to figure out who he is, Ron.
That's it's I mean, his name's Adam. He's out there. He's a great guy. Anyhow. My point is, yes, there has been, I think it's a very positive shift. I don't think it's a great thing for the entire industry to be sucked into just one place. Has created also a bubble of ideology as well, and it when that happens, I think it hurts creativity, because you need the biggest thing you need a diversity of when you're creating is a diversity of thought. You need people to come in with different points of view and different things. And all in Hollywood, it just seems like, especially, I don't know, the last 10 years, it just kind of all coned into this one. This is the way we're going to make things. This is our thoughts. And creativity has kind of gone out the window. And that's why you've seen so much of the same movie over and over again. You go a movie, like, it's like you've never seen the movie before, but you feel like you've seen it. One thing I was watching was the Dewey, what's it called, Vash? Something Hard, the Dewey Cox story. It's a
the musical parody.
Yes, the parody biopic that makes fun of the fact that biopics all follow the exact same formula. So if you've seen one, you've seen them all. It's the same story with a different player in it. When you get away from that, when you get away from Hollywood, when you have to go other places and you have to pull in crew from other places, I think it's a really, really good idea that you're going to get more, much more diversity, more creativity. And Hollywood, unfortunately, I think that there's a lot of reasons, not just this one, but Hollywood is dying, and it's not the place that it used to be. I remember when I was growing up, the shows that you would go to that would glorify Hollywood, that would play the song "Hooray for Hollywood," and they glorify all that. And the Oscars were big. Everybody would have Oscar parties. Those days are gone. It's just not the same. And I don't think it will ever come back, because I don't think it can.
And let's not forget the reason why there is a Hollywood. The reason is because it was cheaper and safer to go all the way out there than to keep being in New Jersey and New York, where it all started, and having Thomas Edison's goons come and beat you up and break your camera. So that's why it's Hollywood. It was going to be Arizona, because they were going to make this movie called The Squaw Man, Cecil B. DeMille and William Farnham. And they got off the train in Phoenix, and it was pouring rain. And they said, "We can't shoot here. Let's stay on the train." And this telegram, this famous telegram, came back to New York saying, "Have rented barn in some place called Hollywood. We'll make movie here." And so if it could happen then, it sure as heck can happen now.
That's right. Ron was making the point, by the way, about conservatives and liberals, and that you need diversity of view. And that's actually true philosophically and psychologically. Because, folks, when you have a company, you want conservatives in your company, but you also want classical liberals. Now, you don't want crazy people on either of the fringes, because they're fringe people.
Can I shade that a little? It isn't about their politics. It's about, if you automatically exclude everybody with a certain political group, you're excluding a bunch of creative people, too, that you would rather have on your side. You don't have to talk politics while you're making a movie. You really don't. And you don't have to agree with everybody. But if you're a really skilled technical person or creative person, why should that whole category be excluded out of politics, out of abstraction? So,
well, to go even deeper than the politics of it, if you look at it from a psychological standpoint of conservatives and liberals in terms of their psychology and what makes them be who they are, having conservatives is good, because conservatives tend to be those who maintain the order, and they continue to want to do what makes things work, right? They understand what functions, and they're very keen to keep traditions alive. And at the same time, you need people who are more liberal, because they find the flaws and they want to make changes. But if you have too many conservatives, then what happens is you muck it up. The machine can't make changes. It can't evolve. And if you have too many liberals, what happens? Well, they want to change everything all the time, and that's no good either. So it's good to have a diversity of viewpoints. Speaking of which, perhaps we should add another viewpoint. Vash, you had a finger up, though. You have one more point to make?
Yeah, well, one point of clarification. I just want to point out that that quote earlier about the regulatory hurdles, that was by Mel Gibson, actually, back in January, not Ben Affleck. Just want to make that distinction right there. I got that wrong.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, folks, let's get another opinion on the screen. Take a look, folks. It's Steve from
Hey,
Under a Rock.
That was quick.
Steve, you're up there in Canada, right? That's how you pronounce it. Canada.
Sure.
Canada. Da, 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 da. Canada. All right, Steve, you're up there, and you guys are the beneficiaries, surprisingly, of the Hollyweirds leaving Hollywood. Your thoughts on the idea that Canada is becoming such a, as I said, a beneficiary of all this, of the exodus.
Are we a beneficiary?
It's hard to say in the economy you have.
If you're like taking over someone else's debt, that doesn't really feel like a...
Steve, what's bad about this is as we talk, our Canadian viewers right now, when I say, well, it's hard to tell with your economy, the Canadian viewers are like, oh. No, actually, you guys have a history of being so kind and nice, and things have changed a little bit up there. Getting a little mouthy.
Oh, it's a bit mouthy right now.
Well, you're having an election, and that's what makes
it's more than an election right now. Like, I don't know if we really want to get into this, but
no, we want to get into the Hollyweirds are leaving Hollywood to go to where the Great North is, and maybe that's because they identify with the political movement of Canada.
Yes, because we are like the Conservative Party. Like Pierre is even safe for most of those people because of the fact that like he would be like a center left Democrat, right? So like Pierre is not the hero that everyone thinks he is, in terms of being a conservative, like truth, like stand on the side of justice kind of guy.
What you're saying, Steve, is that those who would identify as conservative in America, they would identify with the incarcerated party in Canada. Like that's
yes. You wouldn't have a bank, unless you just keep your mouth shut. But it's
we only laugh because it hurts. Otherwise,
it's true. No, there's a receptivity up here because part of it is I think this is an element of it. There's that jealousy that all of our talent gets scooped up down south. So the fact that they're all kind of coming back, everyone's just kind of like, hey, you're Canadian again. Or you want that passport, you want to be considered Canadian.
Speaking of Montreal-born William Shatner, who we referred to earlier, and so many other people between Second City and Hollywood who came from up there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so there's like, speaking of Ghost, but you got Dan Aykroyd, right? You got all these guys.
We appreciate you giving us the talent from your nation.
Yeah, it's our greatest export. So it's the only
not maple syrup
that they let us
Darn.
have. No, it's people.
Oh, okay.
And so our greatest import is also ironically people. But anyway, so we're a very fluid economy, I guess. I think ideologically we align very much with where they're coming from, but because we're not as far gone, it's stable, and so there's like a safety when you come up north, if that makes sense.
It's been going on longer too.
Too.
Long before all the stuff about UK or Georgia or anywhere else. When the term runaway production first took hold in California, it was all about Vancouver.
Yeah.
I mean, it all was. So,
And while people talk about the dynamics of California and all the different geographies that are available, British Columbia actually has the same amount of differences. Now, the travel is far greater. But once you get up towards like Dawson City or Dawson, like up there, Dawson Creek, Dawson City, I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, where they do all the Westerns, you have that location up north.
Stargate.
Stargate is
Stargate's
Vancouver.
done so many different planets, all in BC. So
yeah, but like a lot of like Middle Eastern films, like Shooter, or was it Shooter? That whole Middle Eastern scene that began in the beginning, that was all done in Cache Creek, which is just like a small town. And I did paintballing there with a buddy because he lived there. And there's an explosives factory there, actually. And
we should probably keep you away from that, given your history.
It's true. And so that all being said, you have the diversity geologically of California, The downside is it's so spread out. But the moment you bring in those American dollars to start filming up north, you have the ability to not care so much about time and all that kind of stuff. Plus, I don't know what it's like down south, but Canadians are far more amenable to having production companies come in and take over their churches and allow them to set up base camps inside these buildings because we're getting American dollars. So, because this actually happened in my last church for a TV show. They came in and they're like, hey, if you let us in, we'll, like, if we destroy your carpets, you get new carpets. If you do all this kind of stuff. And we're kind of like, can you destroy our carpets? Like,
please,
we would
take my carpet, please.
Yeah,
with our carpets.
Do not take off your boots. And so you have that influx, and so Canadians get very excited about it because it's like we're kind of reclaiming some of that glory in this weird faux kind of way. And it's just it's a claim to fame. They're like, look, the rich and powerful, they're coming to us for safety and for reliability. But the other thought that I had, though, was about Affleck and the fact that, like, guys like him are now starting to kind of elevate the grips, and maybe there's a contrary point, and I'm no expert. I use a blue screen. But when it comes to lighting and those kinds of guys, the grips and all that, those are skills that you don't necessarily see in practice in places like YouTube. And so him elevating those guys, those people, those roles, he's actually doing something that no one else is really doing, because they're right now, Hollywood's trying to elevate the directors, the production value and all that kind of stuff, when that's actually easily fought overall just on YouTube. But when you see just those lower level, and I don't mean it to be a degrading way, but the grunt kind of jobs where these people are huffing and doing the major labor, to be giving that kind of value, I think that's a significant thing to acknowledge, because those are the skills that we don't necessarily see. We've all seen the YouTubers who they have this amazing setup and their sound mixes might be okay, but when it comes to like the vocals, like sometimes it's a little bit rusty because they don't have those good grips who know how to hold a microphone within 4 feet but still be out of the camera. So it's just
not grips. Gotta keep
what anyway. I don't know the role.
I know.
Lou,
but you're absolutely right.
He didn't want to say boom because Canadians say it weird. They say it like boot. You know,
This is my lighting, okay? I got craft foam around a ring light, okay? So, I mean, don't expect professional.
A month ago, you were using Christmas lights or fairy lights for our UK listeners. So you're doing better, Steve. You're doing better.
That's not true. Last month, it was the exact same thing. So,
either way, it occurs to me, Steve, that I really misspoke when I talked about Hollywood coming up there. It happened before that. I have dear friends in BC, and one of the first times I went up there and spent extended time with them, they said, come on, we want to show you something. And they took me to a section of downtown Vancouver. I wish I remembered the name of the neighborhood.
East Hastings
Street? And they said, where do you think you are? It was spitting. These streets here are spitting images of old Hollywood. It was spitting image of WeHo, of West Hollywood. I said, how come? It all looks like America. They said, this is where the draft dodgers came during Vietnam, and they built it in their own image, so to speak. And you'd swear you were in West Hollywood.
Granville?
But might
Granville
be.
Island?
No, not out on the island. It was anyway.
No. It's in Vancouver.
Yeah.
It's called Granville Island.
You know, I know where that is. That's that wonderful
that's
market. Oh, God.
I think that's
what a great place to go.
Anyway.
But see, every one of these buildings you see here that are replicated at Disney and at Universal, they're replicas of real buildings. Have you got the one somewhere? I know Vash and his magic machine must, of the thing with Pluto on the outside. There's a real pet hospital with a dog on Highland Avenue. They're all copies of the real thing, and the real thing happened because Hollywood was the only place there was any money during the Depression. So, because of the movie business. So anyway, We're two people separated by a common language, as the British used to say. But
Well, I'll say this, folks, we're going to watch and see what happens with Hollywood. But when Ben Affleck is talking about the talent leaving, it's very interesting that he's not talking necessarily about the actors.
no, because they can fly in from anywhere and be there for 3 weeks or 12 weeks and go away. They don't have to live there.
And that's why it turns into intringent transition, if I can say that, and it makes sense. Once people go other places, it is much more difficult to bring them back than just to go wherever they went. And going, they have been doing. We'll see what happens with California, but it is not in its finest state for the Golden State these days. And put another one in the can, folks. A video of excellence has been birthed into existence, and you were there to witness it. Thank you for participating. We hope you had a good time. Folks, it's a great time anytime we get to share time with you, and we mean it. The only thing additional we ask, on the way out the door, consider clicking the like button. Share, subscribe, click it and stick it to those pesky algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. And oh, by the way, if you would be so kind, perhaps share this out on your favorite social media platforms. Folks, we've got all kinds of content coming your way. If you are interested in going even beyond all of that, well, there's a pro store, and you can always find those items directly below the video you're watching. The Pro Store. It's a cool place to check out for items that, well, definitely Disney and the rest are not going to sell you, but we're happy to do so. Until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and as always, keep having fun.
Hey, Floral, guess what?
You put a fork in Pro's microwave again.
No, that was yesterday.
I don't know that what.
Oh, I've decided to give up on torturing Jonas.
What? Why? In the same way the cat sleeps like 20 hours a day, that was like your purpose.
I know, but I've decided there's bigger fish to fry.
Okay.
Like Lorne. I mean, think about it. Everybody loves him. He's a fan favorite, and frankly, he has almost no weaknesses I can find. Except that he's really smart.
So, you want to annoy the one panelist without a single flaw, because he's smart.
Yeah, like that winged statue at that fancy Paris museum thingy. I want to break the one thing that everyone loves most.
So, kind of like the opposite of Rachel Zegler.
Yeah, exactly. And I get to see her all the time at family reunions anyway.
You get to see Rachel Zegler?
Yeah. I mean, she's a total troll. Lives under a bridge, harasses billy goats, the whole 9 yards.
It all makes sense now.
Speaking of which, maybe she'll get me... call her on my... I'm gonna call her and see if she'll be in the next Indiana Jones. She should be the next Indiana Jones. That'll totally destroy Lord. He loves Indiana Jones.
Oh, that's cruel.
Hey, Rach. I've got a cool idea for you that involves a whip and snakes.
I love that description. It's perfect.
I know, right? Weird, as we always say.